still opening for you. Okay, it's up now. So yeah, so what do we have here? This is actually a really simple design, right? So you have your image here, you have these guys here. Yeah, so that's pretty much what you're doing, this and this. So how do you do that? How do you start off? I'm just going to take some of the content I would need. For instance, I will need this guy, so I'm going to select it. I hold down control before I click on select, so that I will select what I want to select. It's a hack I found out. So you hold down control, then you select the exact thing you want to select. Then if you export this guy, I'm going to make sure I save it inside the project. I think the project is in my desktop, called it TJP Forms. So I'm just going to create an asset folder here and just name it just asset folder, and then inside the assets folder I'm going to add the image, which is this. I'm going to name it to woman so that I can easily identify it. Then secondly, I need this image. So this image is made up of all these guys, so I'm going to select the container. I'm going to preview it to make sure I selected the right thing. Yeah, we have different formats. I think I would love to use SVG here instead of JPEG. Then I'll export it, and then I'll just rename it to google.svg and save. And that's I think that's all the images here. Yeah, so I'm going to so there are a couple of things I always put into consideration. For instance, the image here. Who can tell me the size of this image?
397
397 what?
JP.
Yeah, kp. So kilobytes, right? 397 kilobytes, which is kind of small, but the truth is that you want your images to be as small as possible so that it loads quickly when you get on the page. So what you can do is you can export. So let me just do something. Let me go back to the image and export it, but this time around I'll export it as a JPEG. So I would go to the format, I'll change it to JPEG, then I would preview, and then I'll export as a JPEG. I would just still name it woman, and JPEG normally should be lesser size, file size. So the file size, oh, is even large. Wow, it's 439 KB, right? I will delete this PNG, and then alright, so there's a file format called WebP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this big image in a file called orphanview, or ifanview rather. This is it. So I'll open it, then I'll save it. I'll go to the file, then I'll save as. Then I want to save this file as a WebP, which is this WebP file format, right? Then I'll go to where the file is located, which is TJP Forms assets. Then I'll just save it. So basically I'm just changing the format of the file, which is this. So if you check the size of this woman, the WebP version, what is the size?
31.5 kilobytes.
Yeah, thank you. So you see it has saved you over 300 and something kilobytes just by changing the file format, and the it's lossless, right? So it didn't change the quality or anything. It's still fine, still good. Okay, all right, so let's start now. We have everything up, so I'm just going to create two files. I'm going to create I'll call it index.html, then I'm going to create my CSS, call it style.css. Then in my HTML I'm going to add my boilerplate, and then I'm going to link my CSS. Yeah, maybe I'll just change the title to TJP Forms. Yeah, That's that, but there's nothing on the page, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to create a main tag, and I'm going to call the main tag, I'm just going to leave it at main tag. Then I'll create two divs inside the main tag. So the first div is going to contain the image, which is located inside the assets folder. And then it's called woman. And then the second div is going to contain, we have a h1 tag, I think. Yeah, so I'm just going to hold down my control, click on it, and then go to properties. I'm going to copy the text. Then I'll come here, I'll create a h1 tag, and then I'll paste it inside. And then here, what else? I have a container which is kind of like a button, right? So I'm going to create a button. Inside the button it contains an SVG, so I'm going to create a div. Then I'll put the image inside here. The image is found inside the assets google.svg, which is the image. And then we also have the text, I think. Yeah, so I'm going to use a span for this text. I'm going to copy it. So I'll go to my code, I'll create a span, then I'll paste this code. So basically we have a button, and inside the button has one image and a span. Of course we are going to flex this button so that they'll be side by side. Yeah, so what else do we have? We have this or. So I'm going to create so inside here I'm going to create the or, which is I'm going to use a span tag. I'm going to just write or. Then we have a form containing 3 inputs and a submit button. So I'm going to come here, I'll create a form. Inside the form I'm going to have an input tag. This is the placeholder, so I'm going to select this and copy the text. So inside here I'm going to say placeholder and paste it inside. Then to save time I'm going to duplicate this. To duplicate this I placed my cursor in the first one, then I held down Shift and Alt, and then used my arrow key to duplicate the content. Alright, so of course the type of both of these is not text, so I'm going to change them to password, and the text here is password. I'm just doing lazy man work because I don't want to type. That's why I'm getting the content straight from Figma, which laziness is actually encouraged in programming. You did not hear that from Misha. Okay, so what?
How did you write the two passwords in the same different thing at the same time?
Okay, so I selected let me see if there's anything here. Okay, let's say this placeholder text now, right? I can select this placeholder, and then it appears here, it appears here as well. So I can just hold down Ctrl Shift L to select all all occurrence of that text placeholder, and then I can change it to something else. I can change it to Irene, for instance, and then it changes to Irene. So you select one, and then you hold down Ctrl Shift L to select everything. If you don't select everything, you just press Ctrl D, Ctrl D, Ctrl D. Yeah, so for instance, if I wanted to take them one by one, I will just select the first one, and I'll say Ctrl D, select the second one, Ctrl D, select the third one, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's how you can do that. Yeah, thanks for asking. So I think the last input is, yeah, you're welcome. So the last input is called submit input. So select submit. The value of submit is create account. So I'm just going to copy this text and place it there, create account. Now let's go live. Let's see what we currently have. Okay, alright, so this is what we currently have. Looks so good. um, so we have our image, we have the create an account, or create an account with this guy, or then we create with the input tag and then the submit button. All right, so I think we have all the content we need. So the first thing we want to do, of course, is to flex both divs. So this is one div containing this, and then this is the second div containing everything else inside the main. So I'm going to go to I'm going to come here, I'm going to target main, then I would say I'll change the display to flex. Of course, before we start anything, we have to clear the default formatting that comes with your browser. So all the margin that your browser is adding, even though you don't add any margin, you have to clear it off using these. Then box sizing is border box. Then that is fine. You know, on the image, this woman is at the extreme end. That is how it is on the file you are replicating. Extreme, there is no padding here. So without what I just did, if I comment this out, control this, yeah. So if I comment this out and you check the side, you see that there is a bit of padding here, like a bit of space there. It comes from your browser, even though you did not add anything, but your browser is going to add a bit of space at the bottom, at the left, around your HTML. So you have to clear that by using what we just did, and now everything is at the extreme end. Okay, so we're going to come back to this image, but for now let's just continue, right? So we have this guy. Let's start this guy. Let's start with the H1. So the H1 is create an account. So how do we create an account? Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about how so I want to give each of them a width, each of those divs. So we have, look at the structure of my code. We have, how many parents div do we have? How many child div, direct child div do we have? Does main have? Look at the code look at the code very, very clearly. All right, so somebody already answered correctly. It's 2, right? That's beautiful. Very correct. Very correct. So let me explain. So after a tag, right? This is a tag. After that tag, the first tags, the first main tag, this is 1 and this is 2. You know, every other thing is inside this children. All right, so let me take that again. So inside the main tag, we have 1 div, 2 div that are main, right? There's no other tag after them. So this is the opening main, closing main. Now every other tag is inside these 2 main tags. So we have this div, it has an image inside. The image definitely is not a child of main. It's not a direct child of main. The same thing with H1 button. All of them, they are inside this second child. So we have just this main direct child and this second direct child of main. So we have 2. Now what we want to do now is we want to give each of them a section that, okay, this is the amount of space you have to take on this document. That's what we want to do now. And that is why we are using this tag here, this greater than sign. So this greater than sign simply means the direct children, the direct child of this div. So we are saying main, the direct child of main, of course, is divs. There are 2 of them. So it's just going to select just the 2 direct child, and then we're going to say flex 1 1 0. So once we do that, what happens is each of them is going to take just its space, So we are saying take up half of the page. You take half, you take half. This image, it seems as if this image is coming out because we have not set the image. So for instance, if let me inspect so that you guys can understand what I'm saying. Let me go to responsiveness. Yeah. So look at the first div, second div, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so let me do something. So once I make this image is why it seemed as if this div was taking more than its fair share, right? If I unmute it, you see that it now seems as if the div is taking more than half, because this is not half, this is more than half, right? Why the second div is just here. This is also not half. So this image is pushing the what this second div should have, right? But if you make the image, that's why we say we should always make our image 100% of its container, or whatever percent, 20%, 5%, whatever. But it should be a percentage of its container, so that it doesn't exceed, it doesn't go out, it doesn't leave its container. So if I make it 100% now, and then you check again, you see that the div now is exactly half of the page. And then the second one, the same thing, exactly half of the page. Like I said previously, we're going to do something, because personally I don't think this is half, right? I think this is more than half. This is a bit more than half of this page. So I'm going to make this to be okay, let's do something. So this will no longer be necessary actually. Okay, it's actually still necessary, because I'm targeting the main div. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to say first type of, so the first type is targeting the first div. So yeah, we are targeting all the parents, all the direct children, but the first one of the direct children, that's what this first of type means. So I'm going to say you, instead of 1, I want you to be like 1.5, right? While the second one, I'm just going to change this to last of type. So I'm going to make that one just 1 instead of 1.5. So of course 1.5 is bigger than 1, right? So now when you go to the div, now you see that the div now takes like 1.5 kind of, yeah, why the other one takes just 1.5. So you can use width for this, right? You can say, okay, your width, like what you've learned, like your width is maybe 40%, 50%, 60%, that's fine. But I think flex is better. I don't want to spend too much time on the call to explain why that is so. Maybe we'll have another discussion on that. But if you use width or you use flex, any of them works, it's fine, it's beautiful, there's no problem. And of course on your own you can also go and find out what the flex shorthand is for before our session. But I think we need to have that discussion. Okay, all right, so that is that about that. So let's quickly study this guy. All right, so this is the last div. So I'm just going to copy this guy. Why I'm doing all of this is because I don't want to use classes, because it's a very simple assignment kind of. So I don't want to span, there's not too much content there, so the room for errors is kind of reduced. So I'm going to say the main of the last of those direct child, yeah, there is a h1 inside. So I want to style the h1. So the h1 is create an account. So I'm just going to come here. Some persons, I don't know why, they were using their own size, and this document has size already. I don't know why they were using their own size. So this is 56,700. So I'm going to say font size is 56px, font weight is 700. We have not added the font, but we are going to do that later. So that is that. So this is here, and then the second thing we want to do is we want this button, everything to be, you know, side by side, right? The two, this div and the span, want them to be side by side. So I'm going to target the button. So the same thing. So again, if you are dropping anything, I'm not hearing you, I'm not seeing you. I can hear a notification. I don't know. Somebody's messaging. You were asked not to use pixels. Okay. If you are asked not to use pixels, we can always convert now. You know that's one. Okay, for instance, now there's a site called Pixels to Rem, something like of the kind. So you can search for that, and then go to the converter, and then for instance we use 56 pixels, right? So you can say, you know what, 56 pixels is what, 3.5 frame. So you just go to your code, instead of writing 56 pixels, you write 3.5 frame, you know, and that solves that problem, and you go home to life. Yeah, but I mean, it's fine. You can. I don't think at this point there is any issue with you using pixels for your font size. At this point, yeah, I don't think. But of course, your mentors know better. Yeah, there are things that you shouldn't use pixels on. I don't strongly believe at this point you should not use it for your font size. I think it's something you can do, but that's just my personal opinion, of course. Yeah, so let's target the button found here. So just to be sure that we're not targeting, because there's another button here. Okay, no, we used an input field. Okay, so we have just one button. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So we can continue. All right, so I'm going to, since we only have one button, so we won't have any problem. So I'm going to say display is going to be flex. Let's see what we have. Let's leave here. So now they are now side by side, right? But this guy should be in the middle. So I'm just going to say align items is going to be center. Yeah, so this guy now is now in the middle. Let me close this guy. Let's go back to here. All right, so we want it to take up all the space here. Meanwhile, on your main container, there is a padding problem. Like there's a space here, right? There's a bit of space here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say padding is going to be 5%, or let's say 3% top and bottom. 3% right, 3% bottom. So this is now top, just top, right, bottom, then left is going to be 0. The reason why left is 0 is so that there is no space here, right? So there's no space here. Had it been I said 3% for the last one as well, you'd see that now you would have a bit of space here. But that's not what we are replicating. What we are replicating has no space there, so you can just add your 0 and that's fine. All right, so yeah, so let's style this guy, right? So let me go to the input type. So it has a border of 1 pixels. So I'm going to say, first of all, I'm going to make the width 100%. Sorry, not here. Talking about the button. So the button, the width is going to be 100%. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's fine. It's going to have a border of solid 1px. What's the color? The color is, I'm just going to use RGB so I can get the exact color. So I'm going to use RGB to get, because there's a transparency here. Whenever you see something like 40% here, it means that it's not just 100 thickness of black, there's a transparency. So to get that transparency, Hex also has it, but it's a waste, like you spend time. So instead of that, just go to RGB and copy it. It is basically the same thing, right? So on your code, you can just come here and paste it there. That's the color. And then when you check your site, yeah, you see that you have a border. Wait first, let me see. Okay. Let me check the color. Okay, it's transparent. So it's just a background color, transparent. Yeah, it's transparent now. And then the border radius, what is it? What is the border radius? 15 pixels. So make the border radius to be 15 pixels. Yeah. Okay, all right. In the button we have this guy. So the size of this guy, what is the size? Size is 48. That's the size. So what I'll do is I'll come here. I'll go to button. We actually have just one button on this whole file, so all of this thing I was doing is even unnecessary. The H1 as well, but I mean it's just good practice. It's just good practice. I just wanted you to know how to make use of those things. Yeah. But the H1 we have just one on this document, and the same thing with the button as well. So you can just use whatever you can. So we have an image tag, right? So the image tag, I'm going to give it the width and the height. And some of you may complain that, oh, but you said we should not use width and height. Yeah, that's true. That's very correct. But the reason why we are teaching you not to use that is because some of you misuse it. It's not as if you can't use it at all. You can, but many of you misuse it, especially height. Right. Yeah. So if you're doing something really small, maybe like a social media icon like this, and it's very small, it's like 32 pixels, 24 pixels, you can use your width and height for the image to get the exact image. Yeah. But when working with maybe a container, or you don't use it. It's strongly frowned upon. Yeah. Even an image, like a full-fledged image. For instance, we have an image on this page, this image. Normally you don't make use of height. Yeah, but for very little images, very small images, you are free. It's perfectly fine to make use of width and height when styling them. All right, so yeah, so this is the image inside the button, and now it's small. Although I think the size is 48 though, not 24. So I think that was the height that so let's move it to 48 and see what we have. Yeah, so we don't even need to add width and height. I think it's the same size. Like that's the default size, 48 pixels, so that's fine. All right, so the O, of course, I think the O is a span. Yeah, the O is a span. So so how do I target this span? Because we have a span here as well, and I don't want to affect it. Okay, so before we do that, let's just target this span and style it first. Let me see if it is making use of the default size, or no, it's 28 pixels. All right, so inside the button we have a span, and the span has a font size of 28 pixels, and yeah, so I'll switch this back to hex because there's no transparency here. So I'm going to copy this 22222. That's the color. 22222. Sorry, let me delete this. Yeah, this is the default width, so I'm not going to add it. The font size is 28, right? Yeah, that's that. I think we're good. I think we're good to go. All right, so what do we have? We have this guy. Fine. Okay. All right. Now the button itself has a bit of padding. So how do we get the padding? So this is one of the problems you guys were encountering when you were doing your assignments, right? So this is the problem I was talking about. So even if you hold down shift, you can't select this frame. You can't select this frame even if you hold down shift. So what I do is I just select the container, the item inside, then from there I'll trace the container, which is this. All right, so the container has a padding of 0.24 pixels, 0.24 pixels, which is basically in the button, give it a padding of 0 for top and bottom, then 24 pixels. Right, and then we get this, but there is no space at the top. So how do we get that? So you have to do a little bit of maths, right? So Figma would add a height to the button. That's Figma, that's its work, you know. So don't worry about all of that. The only reason why you have a space at the top here is because this container already has a height from Figma, which is 80 pixels. That's the height Figma gave it. So your job is to find out, okay, so if this image is 48, which is what of course we have come to understand, it has a height of 48. We'll focus on the height now. So it has taken 48 height, right? So 48, how do we get the remaining space at the top and bottom? What do we do? Can somebody help us out? Knowing that the container has a height of 80, and then this image, which is the tallest thing in all the elements anyway, it has 48, a height of 48. So how do we get the remaining space up here and bottom?
We'll subtract 80 from the 48, then divide by 2.
Beautiful. So what if you do that? What do we get?
That would be 30 divided by 2. That's 15.
15. Seriously? Let me see. It's 80 minus 48. That's 32. Yeah, 16. Beautiful. Beautiful. So what do we do? So we come here and we say your padding, instead of 0 now, is going to be 16 pixels by 24. And if you check, that is what we have. So this is 48. This is 48 plus 16 plus 32. We'll get to your 80. So this is it. All right, so let's continue. So if I want to get the spacing between this guy and this guy, I would select one of them, then I'll hold Alt and go to the second guy, and then you see that the spacing between them is 56 pixels. So I'm going to add on the button, I'm going to say your margin top is going to be 56 pixels. So now we have that space up here. Then I'm going to go to here, same thing. I'm going to say from here to the O is 48 pixels. So this would be, so I'll change it to just margin, right? So this will be 56 top, 0 left and right, and then 48 pixels bottom. So that will give me 56 up here, 48 here, and nothing here and here because it's 0. Now let's focus on this O. I think the only thing we have to do for O is just to I want to do something. I want to go to this span just to save time. Let's just do this. There's something we can do to target just this guy, but I don't know. It's going to, okay, let me just do it. Because we learn, right? So I'm going to say button, and I'm going to put this sign. This sign is beside your one. So it's called a sibling selector. So the sibling of button. Then I'm just going to put span, and then I would say text align center. Let's check. What do we have? Okay, it's a span element, so it's not going to, like, I have to add, like, I have to change the display to inline, maybe inline block, or even block. Let me use block. Sorry, not inline block. Yeah. So now inline elements, okay, let me explain what happened there briefly. Inline elements, right? This is where it ends. So if there was something in front of it, it will start here. If there was something in front of this O, it will start here. So if you are saying text align center, it ends here. So how is it going to center? It doesn't get all the way here. because an inline element, so it cannot center, right? So you have to change its display from the span that it was to a block, so that it will take up the whole width, and then when you center it, it will move to the center. Is that clear?
No, it's not.
So inline elements. Okay, let me use this to explain. Let me inspect my document for you. So this is the OR. This is the OR. Can you see it selected on the page? That is where OR ends. Anything about OR, that is where it ends, because it's a span and it's an inline, right? So saying text align left, right, it doesn't make any sense, because that is where the element stops. So you can't move it around. It's not like a P tag or a H1 tag. For instance, look at the H1 tag. Let me scroll up a little. And a H1 tag. A H1 tag ends here. Although its content ends here, but the whole full width it contains, like, it ends there. So now you can move it around. You can say, okay, go to the center, okay, go to the right, go to the left, because it has room. It has room to move around because it's a block element. It takes the full width, right? But spans are not like that. Spans they are just taking just what they want. So that's why when I hover here, this is where it ends. So you can't move it around. You can't say, okay, text align center. It will not work. So what you have to do now is you are going to go back to your code and then add a display of block, right? If you come back to our code, now that I've added the display of block, and I go to, let me comment out the text align for now. And then I go to OR, right? Because I've changed it to block. Look at where it ends. Can you see where it ends?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. So it means that there's room. There's room now for the OR to move, either to the left, to the right, to the middle, and all of that, because it's now a block element. It can cover anywhere. You can place it anywhere you like. Left, center, bottom. So if you just get that concept of the difference between inline elements and block elements, I think it's a good thing. It's fair. I mean, you've learned one thing, even if it's just one, So that's why I had to change the display from inline to block. Also, what I did here is called a sibling selector. So I'm saying for the button, the sibling that is called span, apply this thing to it. So this span here is sibling of button. If it is a sibling, if this span mentioned here is a sibling, then what is a child? A sibling, when you say a sibling, it's like a brother, right? You have the same amount of respect. You have the same amount of whatever. You're on the same level. A child is like inside a parent, right? So this is a button and it has a div inside of it, because look at the closing button tag. So it has two divs inside of it, a div and a span. So both of them, they are child of it because they are inside of it. So they are not siblings. The sibling is H1. H1 is a sibling of button. Span is a sibling of button. Form is a sibling of button, because they are not inside of button. They are outside. They are just directly underneath them. So that is why when I say text align center, it did not affect this span, because this span is a child. It's not a sibling. Let's just take it that much. It's fine. All right. So hopefully you guys understand what I meant by child selector or sibling selector. You can always go online and get more guidance. Yeah, but that's basically what it stands for. Okay, so let's tie this OR, which is a sibling of the button. Let's go to your Figma file and then see what we have there. The size is 24 pixels and then 22222, that's the color. So going to go here, going to say font size is 24 pixels. After this code, then you guys are going to tell me exactly, if you have, of course, if the problems you experienced when you were trying to replicate the same thing. Then we have this is 60px from this guy, so I'm going to give it a margin bottom of 60 pixels. Yeah, and now we have these 4 elements. So all the input tabs, we're going to change them to blocks, because input normally is span, so that is why they are side by side. But now I'm going to say the display is going to be block, right? Then that will put them side by side. And then I'm going to also say your weight is going to be 100%. Yeah. I'll check for something. So the same calculation we did, right? First of all, the font size is 28 pixels. So let me just add that first. Font size is 28 pixels. And then the border radius is 15 pixels. Let me just go to the color. We are kind of duplicating code here, but for now it's just, let's just work with that. Let's take this border, let's just add it here. So now we want to calculate the same thing we did last time, right? So now this is also, it also has a height of 80, right? And its content, the line height, not the size now, the line height, because if we use size, we're not going to get the correct thing. So the line height is 36 pixels. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, 80 minus 36, just like we did last time. So 80 minus 36 is going to give us 44, meaning the padding top is going to be 22. So we're going to say I don't know, the padding is too much. It's fine. So 24 pixels left and right. Sorry, I'm mixing it up. Then top and bottom 22 pixels. Then we have this, and it's exactly the same size as this one up here. Now I'm going to give a bit of spacing here for the input type. So I'm just going to say, so from this image to this other one is how many space? 24 pixels. So I'm going to say, so for the margin bottom, it's going to be 24 pixels. So this is the space here, all this space. Yeah. All right, and then we have the create button. The create button is going to be, so there's a way of targeting it, because the submit button is also input, right? So there's a way of selecting just a type of inputs. Like my keyboard is brand new, so there's a kind of I find it's hard to get some of the keys, because it's not even being brand new is the problem. The problem is that it has a different kind of key. The keys are scattered, so that's why I'm making some very funny mistakes. I think this is how you select a type of input. So we're targeting the submit input, and then we're saying the background color is going to be this guy. So it's different from all other inputs. So we're going to say the background color, what am I doing? Background color is going to be this guy. Let's see if I did the right thing. Yeah, I did the right thing. So the color is white, I think. Let me, just to be sure. Yeah, it's white. So color is white. There is no border, like there is no, or is there? Let me see. There is no border, so you have to take off the border. So what I like doing is I like saying border color transparent, and that will take off the border. Yeah. All right, so lastly, I think the space between this and this is not the same, so I'm going to, this is 56 pixels. I think that would still work perfectly. So this is what we have. Yeah, there's a bit of spacing between these guys, so let me add that spacing between this, which is this, and this. Let me zoom in a little. So select this and then hold down your Alt and check 48 pixels. So I'm going to go to my button and then I'm going to say you have a gap of 48 pixels, and then this is the space here. So this is pretty much your assignment. Of course, we have not added the font, but let's just quickly do it. I think it's the Inter font. So go to fonts.google.com, search for Inter, which is okay, very strange. Okay, this is it. Search for the Inter form. Select the styles you would need. I think I would need 500. I would need 500, 400, 500, 600, 700. Normally I just select everything, you know, I don't have strength. So, but I think everything here started from 400, which is regular. So I'll go to the font family. I'll use the imports version, select the @ imports, blah 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 blah, copy it, go to my CSS. I'll paste it here at the very top. Then the font family, in all the elements, I'll just copy the font family, which is this, and paste it here. So I'm saying in all the, of course we are making use of just one font, I think. So in all the elements, I want the font family to be Inter. So if you check our site now, I think, yeah, that has been done. Yeah. So let me, so this is 1440 pixels. Then I'll reduce the size of this zoom to 50% so you guys can see this. In your Figma, let me check something. Let me zoom out a little. In your Figma, this was at the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that main where I flexed, and I'm going to say the align items is going to be center. Yeah, and that way this guy will be in the center of this brush here. All right, so yeah, I mean, that's your assignment. Look at what I would also do. I would select the body tag, because the document we're working is, the width is 1440, so I'm just going to add a max width of 1440 pixels. This is something you should always do. Make the width 100% of that so it doesn't exceed it. And then we're going to use margin 002 to center it. 002. But let me comment out the margin 002 first so that you understand what I'm doing. So now let's say I stretch this page up to 2600 and something. The content is still here, right? But it's still to the left. It's to the left of the document. So the margin 002 would make sure everything is still at the center of the page. Yes, this is not the page, this is not the page, this is their screen, but your content will still be at the center, not at the left. Yeah, okay, so pretty much that's all I have for you guys today.